Delegation Day on Classic FM 97.3, and it's bringing our time to a minute past 8 o'clock. And you know what happens right about now? It is the Business Half Hour in conjunction with Nairametrics here on Classic FM 97.3. And we always have a special guest, as always. You get to learn what it's like starting out in her or his or her line of business. If you have questions, you can always tweet at us at Classic FM 973 or send your comments to our WhatsApp feed 0909-217-2973. I'm not alone. I have Wade with me from Nairametrics as well. Wade, good morning.
Good morning, Bukola. Good morning, Lagos. Great to be here on a Monday morning.
Good to have you.
Thank you very much.
Our guest this morning is Yetunde Taiwo Adekunle, and she's the CEO and founder of Super Brand Dynasty International Limited and YT Foods. Good morning, Yetunde.
Good morning to you. Good morning.
Right.
Good morning, Yetunde.
Nice to have you.
Good morning.
So tell us, what does Super Brand Dynasty International Limited do?
Okay, Super Brand Dynasty International Limited is an export and investment company that we started in the year 2016. We are into exportation of agro commodities outside the country. Talk about countries like Romania, Poland, Germany. Okay, so we also train people on how to export commodities from Nigeria, being connected to the aim of the federal government for us to participate in the diversification of the economy. So we also help people to invest in this line.
And YT Foods?
Right, okay, yeah. YT Foods. YT Food is into processing, packaging, and distribution of indigenous foods like Gari Jebu, dry crayfish, and food spices. And we started this in the year 2020.
And you send them to Holland. You said you export certain things to Holland and some other countries.
Yes, and that's for the Super Brand Dynasty International. So we export charcoal. And also, since we already have a background of exportation, so it's easy for us when we started a food company to also take this out of the country, to explore some of the markets of Nigerians and Africans that want to take our indigenous food.
So tell us more about Yetunde, her background, and what inspired this setup in terms of looking into exporting agricultural produce and also going into the food business. Like they say, there's no business like food business.
Yes. All right. The exportation company, I've always had a passion for buying and selling. So at the time, I decided, okay, I would love to be buying and selling internationally. Okay. So I've been working with companies, maybe as production manager in different sectors. But at the time, I had to resign and sit back and say, my passion is buying and selling. Like the likes of Dangote, the likes of Otedola, I want to be a successful business tycoon. That was what inspired exportation. But the food company, that is very interesting. Okay, in 2020, if you remember, there was a universal lockdown. And during that lockdown, I found out that everything and everyone was on a lockdown except one thing. People's mouths wasn't on a lockdown. Something was going in and coming out of people's mouths. And because of that, there was a time that I and my friends on Facebook, we came up with the idea of sharing food for free to people around my local governments. And when I was doing that, I received the inspiration. Because nothing was going out, but food was part of the essentials that was allowed to move. So I began to think, because, you have to see a problem to solve it before you be called a successful entrepreneur. So we entrepreneurs will respond to problems by providing solutions. So as at that time, delivering quality foods to people's doorstep was the solution we could give that time. All right. And this is actually connected to a story that I would like to tell, maybe as we go on.
Okay. All right. So Now, tell us, what was it like starting out the business? What I really want to get clear now, Yetunde, is the exporting part is different from the food part, right?
Exactly.
And so with the exporting part, could you tell us what do you export with the exporting part? You talked about charcoal and something else.
Yes, we focus on charcoal for the
Mm.
exports company. That was what we started. That was what I started with as an entrepreneur. You know, when your friend was talking to me, we're really focusing on the food company, and I was thinking that was what we'll talk about today, but it's fine. You know, the exportation is focused on charcoal. Reason
Mm.
being that if you are going into exportation, you need to pick a commodity that you'll be an expert on. You
Okay.
don't have to be a jack of all trades, because all those things, they need special trainings. I was
Okay.
specially trained. In fact, I had to be an apprentice in a foreign exchange company, like a trading company, for some years before I could come out to start my own. So and the only thing they export there is charcoal. So yeah, that gave me the idea of charcoal. So we do that in large quantity.
Okay.
Yes, exporting in 40-feet container, but it's dependent on contract sourcing from other countries. So you don't just start one day and say, okay, I want to start exporting to so country. No, you need to have a contract in a particular country from a company, and you will have a contract of agreement, mode of payment, mode of transportation, and every other thing before you, and then you look at the condition, you read and interpret the contract agreement and see that it suits you and it's going to pay you before you sign it and you start exporting to them.
Okay, so we're now going to talk about food. Food is essential to.
Food is essential. But a quick one. I think Bukola asked that earlier before you went into explaining the process of exportation, which for me really clears a number of issues. How did you start off in terms of financing both the export business and the food business? Because financing is hard to come by, and with food, you need every financing.
All right, thank you for that intelligent question. It's a fantastic one. So with exportation, it was not easy. Like I told you, many people don't want to even volunteer to learn some things. So where I actually worked then, I was able to learn how to raise finances for this, because we also train you. We train you on the type of financing for your exportation, the fish financing, the shark financing, and every other thing. So what I did was that I was more connected to pitching my business idea, because I do not have the fund to start with, but I was able to raise by speaking with friends and family and angel investors, right? Okay, I could help them get contracts, right? I could help them get contracts from other countries to supply directly to them, or they be under my company while I manage their investment. So some people say, okay, I want to do 1 container, I want to do 2 containers, I want to do 3 containers. You understand? So I was able to put this money together and then help them to push their own commodity. Then, sometimes they pay us in euros, sometimes they pay us in dollars. So as a result, I was able to gather my own. So we start pushing our own container by ourselves. So angel investors, family and friends. That was for the exportation. Right, for the food business, I was already in business for a while, so I understood financing. So what actually happened was that I found out that money moves towards the direction of idea and value. Let me just put it like this. Money or finance moves towards the direction of a valuable idea. So we had this YT food idea on ground, and somehow my export business is always helping me with other businesses, right? So a friend from Malaysia just called and said, okay, he has some idle fund and he would like to put it in my export business. As at that time, we do not have a contract that we could service that period. So I told him that we won't be able to do that for now, that he should give us some time. But however, he felt that he doesn't want to keep the money with himself. So he said that, what other things can we do? I said, I have another idea, which is YT Foods. That's the food business. And said, so not as if we do not have the fund, but because you want to put your money to use, let me encourage you, bring part of the money while I bring part of the money. And then we started YT Foods in the year 2020. Funnily enough, we started with about 300,000 naira then, because most people think that when they want to start a business, money is their major problem. No, a validated and valuable idea is your first problem, not the money. Okay, so that's how we started off. And then as of today, we have paid him off. Even before 2021, we paid him off all his money, and all the shares belong to the company right now.
Okay. All right. Now, how do you source the food you package?
All right. So, like I was saying, we are into processing and packaging of indigenous foods like gari, jebu, crayfish, soya oil. Then we diversified into food spices. So mostly our products are not something that you really have to be sourcing, stressing yourself to source. Like the gari jebu now, we have suppliers until we get to the scale-up level, which we have now, and we are activating by the grace of God from next month to start making our own gari by ourselves. But we have a steady supplier. Okay, so we have a steady supplier for this product. Now, for the spices, what we do is that we sit down with the production units and then decide on the ingredients we want to use and the value they will give, the proportion of ingredients and all that. Then that will determine where we get this from. So mostly we have most of these ingredients around in Lagos because we are based in Lagos, right? We are based in Lagos. So we have everything we use in Lagos. So all we need is a steady supplier of that product that will give us the quality and quantity we want in the right time. So we have in our business plan, we have 2 or 3 names of people who supply us the ingredients. That's how we source it. And for the crayfish, sometimes we send our production unit down to either Ondo State, or we send to people in the East to send us some bags of crayfish. Then we sort.
Now I've heard you, and one of the difficulties in managing food for me is the fact that there are so many health implications,
Yes.
especially both local and when food has to go outside the country. How have you been able to manage that? One, to meet the health quality standards. That's one.
Okay.
And then the second part is in terms of even exportation, how have you been able to maintain that quality to ensure that all exports at the end of the day are not classified?
They meet up standard. They meet up to standards, right?
Yeah, I'm not qualified that they're up to standard, or even in the process of exportation, they get bad.
Preservation.
All right.
Preservation.
All right. Thank you so very much. All right. Thank you so very much for that question. Number one, being an exporter gave me an edge. I will explain that too. And secondly, our products are NAFDAC approved. So before NAFDAC will approve your products, they will come to the place where you are processing it. They will read your standard operating procedures. They will go through everything. So they are doing a thorough work and a good work. So for them to approve your product, you must be doing things right. So now, number one, for the health side, number one, the reason why we came out with YT Food was to solve a problem which is connected to SDG goal number 2 and number 3 that talks about zero hunger and wellness. Number one, our gari, we found out that, how do you feel when you go to Yarisi in your area and you tell her that I want to buy crayfish, I want to buy gari, I want to buy palm oil, I want quality ones. And she said, okay, she packaged the whole thing for you. You get home to open them, and then you open your gari, it's a smelly. You find cockroach head, you find spider leg, and you try to even eat it, it's sandy or stony and all that. So these are the problem we are solving, because we sell pure gari jebu, not just white gari, because people mistake white gari for gari jebu. And then the feedback has been saying that it is purely gari. You don't find any dirt inside and all that. So that's one of the way we are doing that. And how do we do this? We get from a quality supplier that knows the specification we want in connection with the standard, that's international standard of exportation. Now, in exports, for the fact that we are exporting charcoal, then doesn't mean that by the time it gets to the country, they will find slippers inside, they'll find stone inside. All they want is charcoal and pure charcoal. So let's now bring it down to food. If you are supplying them gari or you are supplying them beans, what a white man wants to see is just pure beans. He doesn't want to find insects inside or weevils. Okay, so we've been trained to give quality. You sort them to the point that you will not be penalized, because by the time you send it for exportation and they are finding things they didn't request from you, you'll be penalized per ton. So this is a standard that we have implicated and integrated into our local supply, the international standard. If you are buying garri from us, it's pure garri, all right? And then we do not use preservative. Everything we sell has natural ingredients, and they are all dry. So we don't sell perishable items. If you see by the names I mentioned, dry crayfish, garri jebu, soya oil, and pepper soup spice, barbecue spice, they are all dry. So we don't even use preservative. Everything we use are natural. So then we are not even causing any environmental hazard. We make sure that our staffs go through the right routine to maintain quality. They clean their hands, they wear their gloves, they wear their apron, and then the environment is cool, dry, and very clean. So that is how we've been operating. And then to export them, because they are dry, the shelf life of most of our products ranges from 1 year to 6 months. So it's of lesser risk.
Okay, just as a quick follow-up, last week it was in the news that the British government and the Nigerian government, along with NAFDAC, are working on a partnership towards improving the export process in Nigeria.
Okay.
I want to hear your thoughts on that, and based on your experience, how do you think people like you in this industry can help, put some form of work towards or work with NAFDAC and the other agencies from the UK towards ensuring that that standard meets not just international, but also local?
Yes, okay, it's a fantastic idea. All they need is orientation and reorientation. Like the SMEs into food or exportable commodities, they need to orient them on the standard. They need to keep organizing the seminar so that we'll meet up. Everybody will be aware of this. We are used to going to market to buy beans and then coming home to remove the stones and the weevils by ourselves. So it's just a natural standard that we've been operating on within the country. But we now need orientation by some of us that understand this thing, and then to bring these people under one umbrella through the federal government of NAFDAC and put them through, so that we will not be at a loss or we will not be short-changing ourselves, and we'll have more opportunities in the international market. Because over there, their standard is upright and they are not ready to shift grounds. In fact, if you want to sell to a buyer there, and you are telling them that, okay, you are packaging 2.5 kg per product to them, and then when they measure it, they are seeing 2.47, they'll be displeased and they may not patronize you again. So we need to work on orienting ourselves more and more until it becomes a natural thing for us. I don't know if I'm able to, to get that.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
All right, talking about packaging, what's your packaging like? How friendly it is? Is it? How environmental friendly is it? Because everything we do now, we're thinking about the environment. So what's it like, and what's the process?
Yes, okay. Let me start from the process. The process, it's very, very okay, in the sense that we get our suppliers the items, we store them in our storeroom, then we have a standard operating procedure that we use. All our like all our foods now, they are stored on inside stainless if you want to start packaging them. That's to avoid contamination or poisons. That's the NAFDAC standard. So we ensure that anyone who enters the packaging or sorting room is well cleaned and sanitized, and then well clothed. They cover their heads, cover their body, and all that. So the packaging we use, mostly we use pouches. Yes, pouches, that's what we use to package our item. There are no environmental hazard, like I said earlier. So we package them inside the lab, and then the NAFDAC have tested it. It has gone through the lab, and I see that it's not of any ill health to anyone. So that's the processing, the packaging. Then we are not using any chemical, so there's no need creating any environmental issue or anything. No chemicals, like no additives, like I said earlier. everything is natural. So we use pouches, we package them in pouches, and then we found out that we needed a size that people we find affordable. You know, it's one thing for you to want to start a business. It's one thing for you to know what people want, not just what you want. So that's how we've been operating.
Mhm. So what's it like in this food business? How competitive is it? Do you think it's been flooded, or there's still more opportunities for anybody who wants to embark on this journey? What was it like?
Well, it's
All right, Yetunde, is it us or is it you? Can you hear us?
I think we lost you.
Mhm. Hello, Yetunde.
Why we wait for you today? It's been quite interesting, you know, better understanding that first, a lot of people would tell you that we need to earn more foreign exchange in Nigeria. Agriculture is an area where you move from raw materials exportation to, you know, process and finished goods exportation. But do we really understand that process, the things that need to be done, the standards that we need to meet? You know, well, for the last, throughout this administration, we hear agriculture. But when you consider the fact that 70–80% of it that goes out is raw materials and not finished or processed musical agricultural produce, then you start to wonder, where are we? Where do we need to do? Because to earn the foreign exchange means that you need to get somewhere into a market where what you require is what the person actually wants, not just those who turn it and then send it back for us to consume.
Exactly. And I think that's where we need to learn, because a lot of times when it comes to food, you know, with the exports, whichever country you're sending it to, they're quite particular about the standard of what is being brought to them, the quality for safety. Because I remember when beans was being refused because of certain chemical components and things like that. So these are the things we need to look at, because over time we've ignored agriculture. We focused more on the oil thing because of fast money, but there's money in agriculture. So we need to start training ourselves now to, you know, uphold standards, to uphold quality, because to be truthful, a lot of times we like to cut corners. Let's tell ourselves the truth. So with finished products, if we are thinking of exporting, we should now start to retrain our minds. Just when, you know, she was talking about reorientation and things like that. So we need to start retraining ourselves for us to meet up at the international standard, because you have food coming in from Ghana, you have food coming in from Cameroon, different parts of the world. And these are people, you know, that to some extent, they are learning what standard is all about. And as a giant of Africa that we call ourselves, we should be blazing a trail in things like this. We have cocoa. People argue, enough of getting the cocoa out, let's start to make chocolates. And I'm sure it's something that we can put, if we decide to put our hearts to it, we can. I've tasted some Nigerian made chocolates and they're not bad at all. But a lot of times you realize that people are a bit reluctant to put their funds in things like this because it doesn't yield that quick money.
Just sell the cocoa and collect the cash and plant new cocoa but also when you consider quick money in the short run, but the value and the quantity of the money at that particular point in time in comparison to if you spend another 6 months to process it and get to the point that will make it, you know, get additional value. But the one thing I also see, and I think that we need to go back to, is if you have the population that we have and we're not making use of our people, low, middle, high level, in terms of carrying out the proper research, in terms of ensuring that, you know, even those who you say are just the planters understand the value of the process, why you need to, you know, plant a seed in this manner, or why you need to do that.
And the quality of the seeds will determine the output
of the seeds. And even the planting methods will determine how much of it will go to waste. Those who need to invest in the other parts of the agricultural value chain, storage, processing, quick processing, storage, dry, cold, and a number of things. And when you consider a country like Kenya that has 11%, almost 11% of, just about 11% of its GDP that comes from exporting flour.
Roses, can you imagine that?
Roses. So you can imagine what happens. And we in Nigeria have become gradually, something tells me that every February, some of the roses that are purchased for Valentine's Day come from Kenya,
And we have a just there where we can actually grow such lovely plants and export.
So what exactly are we doing? With the incoming administration, these are things that we need to start to look at. I know Ugo and I, the last time we spoke, how are we developing our human capital? Human capital development is not just about those who have gone to universities and are seeking employment. It's not just about the JAPA syndrome.
That's right.
It's also developing, those at the lower cadre.
And we tend to ignore them a lot because we're focusing too much on certificates, because they are skills we can actually train and people will benefit from it. It's not everybody that goes through the cohort of university.
They will make a decent living.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, Nigerians, sometimes I say the number of certification, and then you start to wonder, and then you are dealing with some of them and you're wondering, did you just read to get this certificate? The quality, growing up in Nigeria, technical schools, craft and arts and craft schools, we need to come back to that, especially in agriculture. How do we train the farmers, the subsistence farmers in planting techniques? We have the the institute in Ibadan, and it's not just that, where they do a number of training, a number of research. How do we push them to, not just them, others to get involved in developing that talent? Talent is humongous across Nigeria. But Yetunde, we're unable to get Yetunde back, so Bukola and I are trying to talk about. Hello, Yetunde.
Oh, she's back.
Yes, I'm back. I've been waiting outside since. Apologies, the network threw me out.
Sorry, and so we're trying to fill up that space, and time is really never our friend. So I would ask this question, and then Bukola will round up the show. Where do you see this business in the next 5-10 years, with all the things you said in terms of human capital development, in terms of understanding processes, in terms of understanding requirements? Where do you see your business in the next 5 years, both in the export and in the food production?
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. In the next 5 years, at present we're at the scale-up level, and thankfully, our brand White People just won an agricultural business grounds in thousands of dollars, and by the grace of God, in the next 5 years, we'll see ourselves becoming a foremost food brand in the market, and then we see ourselves creating an household name. We see ourselves having our own farm, which we have started, cultivate and process our own gari to our own standard and taste. And then recruiting over 300 distributors across Nigeria. But presently now we are seeking distributors. If you want to be part of our distributors, please reach out. And then also 50 distributors in abroad. This is where we are seeing ourselves. We're seeing ourselves as the next big thing and big brand in Nigeria and across the globe.
All right, so tell us, what's that quote that keeps you going?
Well, if I can think it, I can conceive it, and I can achieve it.
Think it.
Conceive it.
Conceive it.
Achieve it.
Achieve it. Great words this morning. Just one last thing. How do we reach out to your organization, your email, your website, your social media handles, if any?
All right. On the website, you can reach us on www.YT. That's Y for yam, T for tea, YT, then foods, FOODS, www.ytfoods.ng. That's our website. So our email address, superbrands@gmail.com or admin@ytfood.ng. Our phone number 080-8424-7954, or 080-6333-0156. On social media, you can get Foods, Instagram at YT Foods. So the S will be like XYZ, YT Foods.
All right.
And then on Twitter, Super Brand Foods.
Okay, thank you so much. Yesterday was nice having you on the show this morning, and Wade.
Thank you always, Bukola. Always a pleasure to be here on Monday morning, speaking to the promise of Nigeria in different areas, the small businesses. Have a great week ahead.
All right, and the Classic Morning Show continues here with us. Do stay with us.